Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is ktsamuel, your favorite snail farmer. Today we're in a different location, but don't worry, it is actually this weather and location that is motivating me to discuss this particular topic, and it has to do with West African snails, or let me say the giant African land snails, and the dry or harmattan season. Here it's winter, so of course definitely it's a whole conversation on its own, but stay tuned and enjoy this video, because this video is not time bound. Even if you watch this video 2050 or 2046, you're still going to make something out of it, because harmattan is going to be with us forever. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, ktsamuel. Follow me on all social media platforms, because you do not want to miss anything. So do subscribe so that you would get notifications anytime I post. I'm also taking this opportunity to invite you to the annual meeting of the Quality Snail Breeders Association of Ghana, and this is for those who are in Ghana. Okay, so for those who watch me from China and all across the world, this is only for people in Ghana. I'm gonna update this video with a resource person you can reach to be able to join this association. The association is trying to do a lot of things to help snail farmers in Ghana. Can you imagine that people who buy snails in Ghana buy snails at a higher price than people who are buying snails here in the US? Hi, welcome back. Sorry, it's very cold. I had to run away from the snow. So this video, I'm going to be updating it with the number of a resource person to an association called the Quality Snail Breeders Association in Ghana. So for those of you who watch me around the world, China, US, UK, if you do not have your farm in Ghana, you don't need this information. But then if you're in Ghana, there's an opportunity for you to join an association that is looking for the betterment of snail farmers in Ghana. So I will update this video with somebody's number that you can call to join their annual meeting, so that we can all brainstorm on how to make snail farming better in Ghana. Now let's do justice to the topic on the table today. So harmattan, or dry season in West Africa, or parts of Africa, right? Because I know Sao Tome even experiences harmattan season. So, well, what you need to understand is that this is nature, and God put these snails in this location for a reason. Now they go into estivation in this period, and a lot of snail farmers or new snail farmers freak out when this happens during the harmattan season. So in this video, I'll be telling you what to do, what to look out for, how to correct situations so that they come out of estivation as soon as possible. If not, basically the reason why they're going into estivation is because of the weather conditions, obviously, but you can make life better for them. If you know what is happening to them and what they're going through, you can make things better for them so that they come out of estivation early. So I already have a video on this topic similar to this, but I'm going to touch on it a bit more in this video. So when they go into estivation, what happens is that they cover their opening with a whitish material, and then that prevents them from dying. Now the reason why they do this is that in the wild, when the harmattan season sets in, all animals are starving and hunting. All animals are eating things they don't usually eat. Now when it comes to the snail, they have so many predators that can attack them and kill them and reduce their population, so including ants. When it's dry season, that's when ants are ready to hunt and eat. Lizards are hunting snails, snakes are hunting snails, birds are hunting snails. At the same time, for Mr. Poor Snail, there's no rain, so he's not even getting water. At the same time, because it's harmattan, most of the trees are drying up, so he's not getting fresh vegetation to eat. At the same time, the soil is so hard for him to even burrow a hole into the floor. So what happens? In order for him to save himself from being hunted and also from starvation, then the best thing for him to do is to preserve its energy and go into let's say a sleeping mood for a while until conditions are favorable. So this is what happens in the forest or the wild, right? So it is it's nature, it's God's idea on how to make snails survive in the harsh conditions. Now, if anybody is thinking that this is so different, please don't feel that way, because where I am currently, it is winter, and then we have lake and fresh water around. Now, when winter is approaching, some of the animals can swim away from this location. If that doesn't happen, the only thing they do is to go into a hibernation or estivation, just like the snails, because it's unfavorable for them, just like tortoise. So some tortoises would go into hibernation. Some fishes will sleep till winter is over. So it does not just pertain to snails. I hope I have made that point clear. So it's not just snails, even birds move from unfavorable locations to better locations. Butterflies and all sort of animals. So for snails, you would realize that when you go to the wild, the ones that were not able to migrate into a place where they can burrow holes into the soil and stay during the harsh conditions, you realize they die. And then the ones that were able to burrow holes into the ground and stay there for all the harsh condition period, you realize they are able to survive beyond that period. So it's actually, think of it more of as a survival mode for them. Now, these are the things you should do when you notice that your snails have started putting this white thing in their opening, and they're also burrowing holes into the ground to stay there during the dry season. So when you do notice this, what you need to do is that, one, know that, like I said, the snails need to thrive in, there's a temperature range, there's a humidity range. So definitely in Hamatan, the humidity is very, very low. So one, you need to know that the humidity range is between 75 to 95% for the snails that we are talking about, which is the giant African land snails, the AA, the AM, and then the AF. And then the temperatures should be between 22 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius. And usually during Hamatan or the dry season, the sun is up high and it's very dry. So sometimes temperatures can go as high as 33 or 34 degrees Celsius. So one, what you need to do is to make sure you have a lot of mulch covering the snails, because you would realize that they are going into the soil to go and survive. So help them by putting a lot of dry leaves or mulch to create more humidity for them and be able, mulch is used to reduce temperatures, because when you put mulch on a soil, it reduces the amount of water that can be evaporated, so you put a lot of mulch on them so that they wouldn't even need to go under the soil. Sometimes they will stay on top of the soil, and then you put the leaves on top of them. Number two, make sure you don't bother them, because I've seen videos of people saying that, well, you can wake the snail up, put it in water and shake it. All of that is unnecessary. These snails go into a sleeping mood where their system is totally shut down or shut off. So it's like a human being deep in sleep and dreaming, and all of a sudden you go like, hey, if the person has a blood pressure issue, that person can die. So don't disturb the snail. They have gone into that mood for a reason. Actually, everybody who has been doing snail farming for a while knows that if you get snails that are in estivation mood and you are transporting them, they would usually wake up. And when you take them to your farm and give them 2 days, they'll go back into estivation mode, so long as they are still uncomfortable. So waking them up doesn't really change anything. It just can kill them, and you're just disturbing them. Number three, make sure you don't stop feeding them, because some of the snails would stop eating for weeks, prepping themselves to go into estivation. They will stop eating for about 2 weeks. So some farmers will stop feeding them at all because they think they are wasting feed. But you know what? You never know which night they are coming out of estivation. And when he comes out of estivation, he wants to be able to eat. So if it comes and there's no food, what is going to happen? It will go back into estivation, and that can prolong the space of estivation. Usually in our farms, what we do is that we reduce the amount of food. So each pen, for instance, if you're using 1 bucket of food, when it's time for estivation, you would reduce it to maybe 1/4 of a bucket, so that If they supposedly come out of estivation at night, they can have something to feast on, else you'll be starving them without even realizing. Number 4, make sure you increase the amount of irrigation you're doing, because this is the period where everything dries up. Even you, the human being, your lips dry up and they are cracking, and that hurts you. When you dry clothes, within few minutes it's dry on the dry line. So you can imagine a snail that thrives on slime to be able to maneuver, because snails need the slime in order for them to walk around. You know, when a snail walks past you, you would see the marking of the slime. So in Harmattan, this snail needs moisture, and the place is so dry, super dry, so the skin dries up and it's not able to maneuver around, or if it maneuvers around, it's going to get cuts on the skin. So it's important that you irrigate at least twice a day, so that the place can always be humid and cool in temperature for them. You know, so you irrigate the wall, you irrigate the mulch, the leaves that you have, and then you also check the soil and make sure that some of the water is actually going into the soil. But make sure you don't overdo irrigation, because you don't want the place to become swampy or muddy. You just want the place to be wet at all times. And trust me, if you're able to do this, you're likely to have the snails come out of estivation in about 2 or 3 weeks, so long as they are comfortable. Also, this is not a period where you want direct sunlight to be hitting the snails, or you want direct wind to be hitting the snails. So make sure you have the housing right. And this is what I always say: make sure you have the housing right. You should have a housing that has walls, so that direct wind, the dry wind, doesn't hit the snails, you know. And then if you have direct sunlight hitting the pens, not just inside the pen, but even the wall of the pen, if you have direct sunlight hitting the walls, it's going to make the walls very hot, hence making the place dry and high in temperature, and these snails will be uncomfortable, they will die. So even if you have to put curtains so that the sun doesn't directly hit the pen, please do that. That would save you a lot of money or investment. Finally, this is the reason why I always advise people to plant a lot of vegetation around where their pens are or inside their farm, because if you have a lot of vegetation around you, it also propagates humidity and makes the place cool in temperature for the snails. So before you even start your farm, start planting a lot of vegetation, plantains here and there, and trust me, the snails are going to enjoy themselves even when it's Harmattan. I'm going to add a last point. Forgive me. It is ideal for you to set up your farm in a perfect location. When I say a perfect location, I mean the rainforest zones, places where you know God purposely put the snails because that is their natural habitat. So when you set up your farms in these places, usually during the Harmattan season, it doesn't really hit these locations much, because they are forest zones, and in these zones it rains a lot, hence making your snails more comfortable than somebody who set up their farm in the very hot or savanna locations. Let me use Ghana as an example. If you set up your farm in a place like Ebri or Ekropon or Enyinem, you know, those cool rainforest zones and mountainous locations, during Harmattan, your snails will be in a much comfortable situation than somebody who is setting up their farm in Accra or Tamale or Upper East. You know, that is the reality, and I hope this comes to you as a blessing. So I am sure you gathered a lot of information in this video. There's another educative video. I wish you all the best, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is ktsamuel, your favorite snail farmer. I love you all. Bye.